Look, if you've been seeing the headlines lately, you'd probably think we are on the absolute brink of an apocalypse, right? The air is just thick with anxiety. But today, we're actually going to look closely at the ancient texts, the astrological data, and some absolutely brilliant modern insights to uncover what these sources claim is really going on. And spoiler alert, it is way more fascinating than just some simple doomsday scenario.
So we kind of have to ask this right out of the gate, because sensational headlines are predicting global doom at an alarming rate. I mean, people are literally having a hard time even planning their lives right now because of this looming dread. But as we unpack the ancient Vedic texts right alongside modern interpretations, you're going to see this brilliant twist that's been hidden in plain sight all along. According to these traditions, it is not about the end of the world. It is about the end of an era.
Okay, Section 1, 2026, a year of shock.
Let's kick things off by looking at what the world-renowned seers have claimed is waiting for us just around the corner. Like, what are the warnings that have everyone so on edge? When we look at predictions from the mystic Baba Vanga, Nostradamus, and especially that 600-year-old Indian text, the Bhavishya, the consensus seems to be this terrifying convergence of catastrophes. They allegedly outline a time where artificial intelligence runs totally amok. Followers point to claims of dramatic extraterrestrial encounters that just shatter our understanding of the universe. The Bhavishya specifically warns of a 7-month global conflict drawing in multiple nations, while other visions foretell incurable viruses causing widespread panic. Biological threats supposedly way worse than what we experienced with COVID. So yeah, it paints a deeply chaotic picture of absolute global instability.
Now take a look at Nostradamus' ominous warning here. He points to a sudden, shocking event regarding a major world leader. Contemporary academics and prophecy enthusiasts actually interpret this thunderbolt striking down a great man as a sudden, intense political upheaval or maybe even a high-profile assassination. When you layer that kind of sudden geopolitical earthquake on top of all those other predictions, it just adds this intense layer of political anxiety to an already incredibly volatile timeline.
Moving on to Section 2, Signs of the End. To really grasp the true weight of 2026, we have to look back much further than Nostradamus. We need to dive into the ancient Vedic texts that outlined the specific symptoms of the end of Kali Yuga, which basically translates to our current age of darkness and moral decline. And these weren't just vague guesses. Texts like the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhavishya predicted highly specific anomalies in human behavior and nature that mirror our modern world eerily well. They spoke of a time when truth and mercy practically vanish. They claimed the environment would become so profoundly out of balance that mango and neem trees would bloom completely out of season. They even pointed to rare astronomical events, like a solar and lunar eclipse occurring in the exact same fortnight, becoming super frequent. Honestly, you just have to look at today's bizarre weather patterns and doom scroll your newsfeed for about 5 minutes, and it's hard not to feel like these ancient seers were looking right at our current reality.
And this quote right here, it brilliantly illustrates the moral decay of our era. The Vishnu Purana describes a time where power and wealth completely overwrite justice, compassion, and spiritual purity. It's describing a society where external accumulation is literally the only metric of human value, reducing the vulnerable to mere servants of the powerful. Think about modern hustle culture, or the extreme wealth disparity we see today. I mean, this text is thousands of years old, yet it feels urgently, uncomfortably modern.
Which brings us to Section 3, the Kalki Avatar Prophecy.
As all this darkness reaches its absolute peak, the ancient texts promise a dramatic divine intervention. They say that when fundamental cosmic righteousness is completely compromised, the universe basically triggers a hard reset. According to ancient texts like the Kalki Purana, the Supreme Lord takes birth in a mystical village called Shambhala. The story goes that he mounts a magnificent white horse, and wielding this blazing sword, he furiously wipes out the corrupt rulers of the earth, to cleanse the world and usher in a brand new golden age, known as Satya Yuga.
But I want you to pay very close attention to one specific detail about his steed. The horse is named Devadatta, and in these prophetic traditions it is frequently and specifically described as a white horse with wings. Keep this winged horse in your back pocket. Let that image really sink in, because understanding this highly literal description is the key to unlocking a massive paradigm shift in how we interpret the entire future of humanity.
All right, Section 4, Shift in Human Intelligence. This is exactly where we pivot from the myth of a literal bloody destruction to a deeply empowering meaning, guided by some really fascinating insights from the mystic Sadhguru. He points out something brilliant and honestly kind of hilarious if you think about it. Biologically speaking, if a horse has wings, it's a terrible horse. Its legs would be totally useless.
He explains that this ancient imagery was highly metaphoric. The winged horse actually represents a celestial gift dropping upon us from the heavens. According to his interpretation, it's an awakening of bright, razor-sharp intelligence raining down on humanity, rather than some literal warrior riding out of the sky to trigger an apocalypse.
Let's look at how this builds across human history. Sadhguru explains that human communication fundamentally changes through these cosmic yugas. Back in the golden age of Satya Yuga, human intellect was said to be so high that communication was purely mental, essentially telepathic. As consciousness dropped into Treta Yuga, vision became key. Greeting someone was literally just saying, "I see you." Now, in our current dark age of Kali Yuga, humans have become wildly, aggressively verbal. Just look at social media. We are constantly shouting over one another, and our mouths have become our biggest tool precisely because our deeper perceptive intelligence has dimmed so significantly.
So, the crucial point in Sadhguru's cosmological model is that our collective intelligence is directly tied to our solar system's physical trajectory in the galaxy. He claims that as our solar system orbits a greater supersun, the further away we get from this massive energy center, the lower our electrical and magnetic capabilities drop, which marks the absolute peak of Kali Yuga's ignorance. But the amazing news is that right now we are physically moving out of that distant dark phase. As we move closer to the source again, Sadhguru claims the neurons in our brains will physically begin to carry more electrical charge. We are stepping into an era where our innate human ability to perceive, understand, and connect will naturally begin to crackle and blossom.
Think about how we talk for a second. Human beings have always instinctively equated intelligence with light. When you finally figure out a really complex problem, you don't say, "I got a dark idea," right? You excitedly say, "I got a bright idea." Sadhguru compares this neurological upgrade to switching from old, power-hungry 5,000-watt bulbs to highly efficient modern LED lights. With very little power, we can suddenly light up a massive room. That is exactly what he claims is happening to the human brain, meaning Kalki's famous blazing sword is actually the sudden, inescapable illumination of the human mind, slicing right through and destroying the darkness of our own ignorance.
Finally, Section 5, Dawn of a New Era.
So, with our minds physically and energetically shifting, how does this actually play out for us in the year 2026? Well, Vedic astrologers point to 2026 as a massive turning point, claiming that major planetary alignments will catalyze the shift. They interpret Saturn as bringing intense karmic closure, meaning long-standing, unresolved societal and personal issues are finally going to demand accountability. Jupiter is said to activate deep spiritual clarity, burning away confusion. And the Rahu-Ketu axis, the shadow nodes of the moon, are predicted to trigger massive inner awakenings that will disrupt the status quo, totally dissolving fake relationships, unfulfilling careers, and outdated societal structures.
If we take these insights to heart, 2026 isn't just another year on the calendar. It's a massive karmic gateway. And this matters for you because, according to these traditions, you are going to feel a powerful, spiritual pull where superficial goals suddenly lose all their weight. The old Kali Yuga metric of judging your life success purely by wealth, status, and power, it will start to feel incredibly heavy and utterly meaningless. Instead, your deepest focus will organically shift toward inner peace. The priority becomes aligning your life with this newly blossoming, heightened consciousness that is returning to the planet.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, instead of fearing a literal doomsday filled with global wars and dramatic destruction, realize that the prophecies of 2026 are pointing to something far more incredible. They're pointing to the death of ignorance. That celestial gift is dropping, leaving us with the ultimate question. As the world around us fundamentally transitions, are you ready to embrace the dawn of your own intelligence?